So before I really dig into this brake lever in detail, let's start with the classic segment, the weight check. There are the scale. This one is in factory pre-bled condition and the weight is about 133 grams. And this 4-piston caliper with the fin brake pads weighs 136 grams. So one side of the complete brake set comes to around 270 grams and the whole set will be around 540 grams, and the hose may end up being trimmed a bit shorter. Honestly, the weight is very impressive. Now compare with the previous FV4 brake lever, which is 119 grams. The new generation is only about 15 or 16 grams heavier. Yet in return, you'll get a more refined and much more serious performance upgrade. So compare with the previous radial piston version, how much heavier is it? The radial version is 110 grams, so it's 23 grams heavier. Now let's compare them properly. So at first glance, the structures look pretty similar, but in reality there are a lot of differences. First, let's see what remains the same. The clamp, for example, is still a 20mm wide clamp band, which gives you plenty of clamping force during installation. Once installed and tightened with a single bolt, the clamp will not loosen at all. The FPRO keeps that same design. Next, the thickness of the cylinder body. In other words, the change in reservoir size and the redesigned bladder inside. All of these changes serve one core purpose, the upsized piston. We can see clearly here that the piston diameter is very large. Let's compare with the previous generation. The FV4 piston is tucked inside the body, and you can see clearly that this piston is obviously smaller than the FPRO's. And there's an even more important point here. Why is the FV4 piston hidden inside while the FPRO piston is exposed? The main reason is that the piston on the FPRO has an adjustable and controllable free stroke, which has more travel than on the previous generation. The biggest effect is that it allows more fluid displacement in the whole system to drive larger calipers. And that opens up a bigger possibility. With this FPRO lever, it won't just support 4-piston calipers, it can support 6 or even 8-piston calipers. Not many brake levers on the market can comfortably handle that, because it requires not only the bigger fluid displacement, but also the higher reservoir volume. Some details have also been refined. Now let's break down a few more details. The piston actuation structure has been changed. There is now a bearing structure in the middle. Every time you pull the lever, the piston is loaded with a straight, planar downward force thanks to the bearing. On the older version, or many other similar brakes on the market, the actuation for the internal piston is basically down through this linkage rod. Every time the linkage moves, you can feel that apart from the direct push, the linkage has some sort of side-to-side movement, because it pushes from here to here. And every time it moves, the pivot rotates, and this part also rotates slightly. That push rod drives the internal piston through a ball end contact point. It doesn't have a huge immediate effect on the piston, but over time, the internal friction can still cause some wear in both the piston and the cylinder. In terms of lever feel, this kind of structure definitely cannot match a bearing support straight push design like this, which is much smoother and finer. The piston is always loaded across the flat face with a straight downward force on the end surface. No rocker arm, no redundant side-to-side movement, and longer lifespan of the internal piston seal. It's a subtle improvement, but requires quite complex structure. Now, let's look back at where the lever blade connects to the main body. It still uses a bearing structure, one bearing on top and one bearing down here. The benefit is the same on the earlier generation. There is basically no clearance between the lever blade and the body. It feels very stable, no slop at all. Now look over here, there's another upgrade in the middle section, which is a bigger functional upgrade, and it is officially called the anti-crash lever function. The idea is actually very simple. Besides moving downward, the lever blade also has some room to move upward, so if you crash or the lever hits an object, it has a bit of rebound travel to release the impact. The feel is excellent, very crispy. It is achieved by having a built-in moving space and a stainless steel spring. It helps protect the whole lever blade to a certain extent. But it cannot guarantee that no matter how hard you crash, nothing here will ever break. We do actually see this on some Shimano brakes.